since you are from Libertarian Christian, as opposed to having some long bio, I would like to just kind of jump in with a couple of quick questions and explain for our audience who Libertarian Christian Institute is. What problem are you folks attempting to solve?
Well, what stands in the way of a vision, of course, is the state. That's a kind of a cheesy, quick answer, but really what it is that we have a lot of Christian thinkers, pastors, scholars who, for better or for worse, many of them are very, very good. The Christian view of how do we look at politics has, at least in America, been bifurcated between, what we would call conservative and liberal, or left and right. And there is a more consistent or coherent way of looking at politics that is what we would call libertarianism. And those views we can kind of elucidate over the course of this conversation. But essentially, what we have is a handful of obstacles. Some of them are just sloppy thinking. Some of it is bad theology. Some of it is just unthinking theology. People who just sort of read a verse and say, "Oh, well, look, Jesus says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's. I guess that means that I need to pay. I guess that means that I can have allegiance to Caesar and allegiance to God at the same time." And it's like, well, no, that's one verse. We have to keep that in context. So, overly reductionist thinking about the way the Bible addresses politics is probably one of the biggest challenges that we like to address, and just consistent thinking on certain values. I mean, there's a lot of conservatives who say they're for small government, but where are the conservatives in politics who are actually for small government? Because at some point they will want the government to be regulating something that none of the three of us here would be like, well, wait, that's not Christian, nor is that actually libertarian. So the consistency between libertarian thought and Christian political thinking is very, very close.
You weren't quoting your hat just now. You were actually quoting a verse. What does your hat say?
Yeah, so the hat says, and we can put a graphic up, or maybe you can use it as your thumbnail. And some people have already seen it. Here we go. It says Jesus, and then Caesar is crossed out, is Lord. And what that is alluding to is the phrase in the first century when people said that Jesus is Lord. It is a very political statement because people in the first century, especially in Rome, would declare that Caesar is Lord, and Caesar is the savior of the world, and Caesar was the one who could bring peace to the world and solve all the world's problems. And so to say Jesus is Lord is not just some religious statement, although of course that is. It's not a personal statement of like, oh, Jesus is the person I look to for guidance, or Jesus is the person I trust for my salvation. Those are all true things. But in the first century, in its context, to say Jesus is Lord is also to say, and Caesar is not. And so it would basically be like saying, Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Barack Obama or George W. Bush is not my president. Jesus is my president.